SCP-NaN. SCP-NaN doesn't have a number because numbers imply existence, and this thing occupies the space where existence forgot to show up. Standing in a location that can't be mapped, with properties that can't be measured, SCP-NaN is what happens when you try to divide reality by zero and the universe just shrugs. It's classified as anti-absentia, which is a fancy way of saying it exists specifically to make sure the Foundation keeps existing, even though it probably shouldn't. Self-contradictory? Absolutely. Does that stop it from working? Not even a little. The Department of Deletions, a branch made entirely of people and places that were erased from reality, monitors SCP-NaN because nobody else can even perceive it properly. Access is restricted because acknowledging SCP-NaN too directly causes memory corruption, data loss, and the occasional personnel member forgetting they were ever born. One researcher tried to document it and ended up writing, "cannot access memory address," over and over for 6 hours straight. Here's the worst part. SCP-NaN triggers randomly. No pattern, no warning, just sudden bursts of influence that rewrite portions of the Foundation's database like someone's cat walked across the keyboard. Except this cat is metaphysical, hates you personally, and knows where you live. Survival rate if you encounter SCP-NaN? Undefined. Literally. The math doesn't work. You're not dying. You're experiencing a Stack Overflow error in your own consciousness. And honestly, that's somehow worse. Good luck remembering this one tomorrow. SCP-6183. SCP-6183 is a secret server hidden on Site-19's 48th sublevel, which is impressive considering Site-19 doesn't have a 48th sublevel. This rogue database, owned by the Department of Deletions, automatically backs up 1% of all deleted SCP files, storing them in a place that technically doesn't exist. It works without power, without internet, without anything resembling logic. Faraday cage? Doesn't matter. Buried under concrete? Still backing up files. The Foundation tried everything short of throwing it into the sun, and honestly, they're probably saving that for next Tuesday. Inside SCP-6183 are thousands of corrupted SCP files, most of them unreadable digital sludge, but buried in the static are messages, warnings from Deletions personnel who exist in fragmented states, stitched together from deleted timelines like a patchwork quilt nobody asked for. These agents manifest as disembodied limbs, floating heads, and occasionally full torsos that phase through walls to deliver cryptic paperwork. Professional? Debatable. Unsettling? Absolutely. One Deletions agent appeared during an O5 meeting, handed over a document with a floating arm, then vanished. The document detailed how the Foundation's deletion process was causing reality to fold in on itself. The O5 Council's response? Immediate panic, followed by the realization that stopping deletions would overflow the database and crash everything. So now the Foundation is stuck in a loop. Delete files to save space? Accidentally create metaphysical disasters, then spend millions containing those disasters. It's the digital equivalent of trying to bail out a sinking ship with a colander, except the colander is also on fire. And the ship? Yeah, it's already at the bottom of the ocean. SCP-7079. SCP-7079 does or does not exist, which is the kind of sentence that makes your brain hurt if you think about it too long. This anomaly is classified as extant non-extant, meaning it's Schrödinger's nightmare, simultaneously real and unreal depending on how you talk about it. The document describing SCP-7079 is written in the most aggressively vague language possible, filled with phrases like may or may not, and it is unknown if it is known. Reading it feels like arguing with the philosophy major at 3 a.m., except the philosophy major is a metaphysical threat capable of erasing your sense of self. Researchers from the Department of Surrealistics tried to locate a Deletions agent to understand SCP-7079, only to find fragmented messages written in substitution ciphers and scrambled text that screamed, "Make it stop." One message simply read, "Help" at the end of pages of gibberish. Encouraging. Here's the theory. SCP-7079 is triggered by certain sentence structures in SCP documents, specific formatting that, when read, reinforces the anomaly's existence. To prevent this, the documentation is deliberately confusing, burying useful information under layers of semantic noise. It's like trying to defuse a bomb by speaking only in riddles, which sounds stupid until you realize the bomb is a riddle and it's already inside your head. The weirdest part? SCP-7079's interview logs show it conversing with itself, creating recursive loops of identity crisis so profound that even it doesn't know who it is anymore. If you encounter SCP-7079, congrats. You probably just made it worse by thinking about it. You're welcome. SCP-7549. SCP-7549 is a dead planet inside the Foundation's database that shouldn't exist but does anyway, because the universe has a terrible sense of humor. This planet is filled with millions of VHS tapes, each one containing an interview with a deletions agent. These tapes are their backup, recordings of fragmented identities, stored in case the agents need to remember who they were before deletion scrambled their sense of self. Sounds helpful, right? Wrong. Each tape is so data-heavy that a 3-minute video requires 15 terabytes of storage. The Foundation can't even digitize them without crashing entire server farms. The tapes show agents sitting in chairs, answering questions from an unseen interviewer. Some remember their lives before deletion, others don't. One agent cycled through 5 different childhood memories in 30 seconds. Born in Nebraska, then Leeds, then as a lamprey, because their identity is stitched together from multiple deleted people. Another agent apologized for 27 minutes straight, tears streaming down a face that kept melting and reforming. One tape contains a warning. We aren't supposed to live this long. The figure on screen begs whoever's watching to destroy the tapes and free them from the loop. But destroying even one tape causes the others to corrupt faster, spreading instability like a digital plague. Oh, and viewing the tapes too long? You start appearing in new ones, sitting in that same chair, answering questions you don't remember being asked. The Foundation's solution? Leave them alone. Don't watch, don't touch. Don't even think about them too hard. Sleep tight. SCP-7912. SCP-7912 is a testing chamber that ate itself and became a metaphysical black hole of bad decisions. Inside this room is nothing, not darkness, not emptiness, but the absence of information itself. The sectors of the database that should describe SCP-7912 are blank, writable space that rejects any attempt to define it. It's like trying to save a file and your computer just says no and deletes the folder instead. Helpful. When Foundation personnel enter SCP-7912, the room dynamically renders the least likely thing they expect to see, pulling from their subconscious fears and memories. One researcher saw their dead father. Another saw a hallway that looped infinitely. A third saw a floating cube on an endless plane of shale and immediately resigned, which feels reasonable. The Department of Deletions uses SCP-7912 as a backdoor between their non-existent facility and Foundation sites, because apparently nobody told them that portals to nowhere are a bad idea. One agent named POI-7912 tried to install cameras inside the chamber and got trapped in a recursive nightmare where every exit led back to the same room. He's still in there, technically. The cameras recorded him running through deserts, temples, and oceans that don't exist before the feed cut to static. The current theory? SCP-7912 is the result of a failed attempt to neutralize SCP-184, an object that creates infinite interiors. Instead of containing infinity, they created anti-infinity, a space that devours its own existence. And yes, the room is still accessible. No, you shouldn't go in there. But you're thinking about it, aren't you? SCP-6768. SCP-6768 is what happens when you delete an entire timeline and it gets mad about it. This anomaly originated from a destroyed Foundation timeline where something went catastrophically wrong with the Department of Deletions. The exact details are lost, but the aftermath? A 3-kilometer sphere of corrupted space called SCP-6768A that generates infinite wind turbines across a planet-sized landscape of cracked asphalt. These turbines produce inverted energy, electricity that drains power instead of providing it, which is the universe's way of saying, you really screwed up this time. The Foundation, in peak irony, decided to harness this backwards energy by feeding it back into itself through thermodynamic loops. It works. Barely. But the turbines keep multiplying, growing like a technological cancer, overwriting entire regions of the deleted timeline. One maintenance worker was erased mid-shift and replaced by a new turbine, jutting from the side of another turbine like a grotesque branch. Here's the kicker. The more the Foundation uses SCP-6768A's energy, the faster it spreads. It's a Faustian bargain where the devil is a wind farm and the price is existence itself. The note recovered from the compromised timeline warned against this exact scenario, ending with, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and too much of a good thing is still enough to end the world." Survival strategy? Stop using the turbines. Except the Foundation can't, because they're dependent on the energy now. Classic Foundation move. Solve one problem, create 3 worse ones, then act surprised when reality collapses. You'd think they'd learn. SCP-7959. SCP-7959 is the Foundation's passive-aggressive voicemail from a timeline that hung up on existence. Designated TL-7959, this parallel universe is completely inaccessible. Every attempt to observe it fails through equipment malfunction, data corruption, or spontaneous brain aneurysms. The only consistent result is SCP-7959-A, a message from someone called POI-7959 that plays regardless of medium or language. Phone call, message, radio frequency, same message. Telepathic probe? You guessed it. The message is polite, professional, and deeply unnerving. Hello. Thank you for your interest in our dimension. Regrettably, I must inform you that the prime timeline is closed. Please return during normal hours. Here's the problem. There is no prime timeline. The concept is a myth, a narrative convenience used by bad sci-fi writers and people who don't understand multiversal theory. But POI 7959 insists their timeline is the original, the template from which all others are copied. And if that's true, it means every other Foundation timeline, including yours, is just a bootleg copy running on borrowed time. The message ends with a tone followed by, "This mailbox is full and cannot receive more messages. I'm sorry, goodbye." So, TL7959 is either the most important timeline in existence, or the most elaborate prank in multiversal history. The Foundation can't tell which. Attempts to leave a message for POI 7959 have failed. Turns out you can't contact a timeline that's turned off its notifications. If you call SCP-7959 and get an answer, congrats. You've discovered something worse than a dead end. You've found a timeline that chose to ghost you. SCP-8747. SCP-8747 is the Foundation's self-inflicted digital apocalypse, which is on brand for them at this point. In 2045, the Foundation tried to conceptually delete digital anomalies using a machine called AO-8747, designed to access the cybersphere, a metaphysical space where all digital data exists. The goal? Neutralize the Department of Deletions who were believed to be hiding there. The result? A 3-kilometer sphere of corrupted space, SCP-8747-A, that made it impossible to delete anything digital. Every file, every anomaly, every cat video. Permanent. Forever. The Foundation's response? Blame the project director, fire an overseer, then spend millions trying to fix it with the same machine that caused the problem. Because if there's one thing the Foundation excels at, it's doubling down on bad ideas. Here's where it gets stupid. They succeeded. AO-8747 was reprogrammed, SCP-8747-A was erased, and everything went back to normal. But the damage was done. Over 1,000 digital anomalies had breached containment during the crisis. Civilian tech failed worldwide, and conspiracy theories exploded faster than the Foundation's PR team could suppress them. The Department of Deletions? Still there, untouched, watching. Turns out they were never in the cybersphere to begin with. The Foundation just assumed they were and built a doomsday machine based on a hunch. Classic. If you ever wonder why reality keeps breaking, it's because the Foundation treats existence like a beta test and we're all unpaid QA testers. Survival tip? Hope they don't try this again. Spoiler, they will. 8 anomalies that shouldn't exist, maintained by a department that doesn't exist, stored in a database that's one bad update away from crashing reality. Which one haunts you the most? Drop it in the comments. Thanks for watching, and maybe don't think about them too hard. They notice.